네, 여러분 반갑습니다.
Pleased to meet you. Welcome to the talk concert of the PyeongChang Peace Forum 2021. I am Moon Sori. I will be leading you throughout the morning. The talk concert today is titled Ways to Utilize Gangwon 2024 for Peace. We have a panel of experts here with us. We also have participants who have participated in inter-Korean exchanges in the past, and they will share their experience with us, and they will also talk about how to utilize Gangwon 2024 for peace between the two Koreas. We look forward to the talk concert. Thank you very much to the participants who have joined us both offline and online. Let us now start the talk concert of PyeongChang Peace Forum 2021. 2024 Peace Again. Do you remember the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics? The two Koreas hand in hand. For the first time in 11 years since the 2007 Changchun Winter Asian Games. Passion of one and one Korea that we have hoped for. The amazing results of the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. A gathering that was thought to be impossible came true, and we cheered for the same teams. And we also had the butterfly effect on the Korean peninsula. The piece of history that was built through sports could not be toppled with any political ideology or teaching. The power of Gangwon, the history of inter-Korean exchanges based on sports. In November of 2014, even amidst tensions between the two Koreas, coming close to a military collision, the first international youth football tournament was still held. And the year after, even with the military tension between the two Koreas reaching its peak, the second international youth football tournament was held in Pyongyang, and it recorded the highest number of spectators. The inter-Korean relations was at its worst during the third international youth football tournament held in China. During the tournament, Governor Choi Mun-sun officially asked North Korea to participate in the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. I very much appreciate the efforts of President Kim Kyung-sang. Miracles can happen, and at the fourth International Youth Football Tournament held in 2018, Korean athletes went to North Korea on land. And we rewrote history by having live broadcasting in Seoul and Pyongyang at the same time. This contributed to lowering tension between the two Koreas. Even when political situations between the two Koreas soured, sports exchanges were not severed. Even amidst crisis, the two Koreas met through sports. Gangwon Province, located at the center of the Korean peninsula, is the world's only divided local autonomy. We will become the bridge for peace between the two Koreas. In 2008, the performance of the New York Philharmonic in Pyongyang. This performance was made possible by Governor Choi Mun-sun. Gangwon Province will become the center of the era of peace through culture and art. PyeongChang Winter Olympics Spirit of Peace continue to shine through the PyeongChang Peace Forum. The strength of Gangwon Province, the starting point of the peace between the two Koreas, PyeongChang. Gangwon Province started the inter-Korean exchanges for the first time in Korea, and that is the start of the peace era between the two Koreas. Every time there were conflicts between the two Koreas, Gangwon Province played the bridge for peace. We had events that were held regardless of military tension and political situation. And now we dream of opening the era of peace not only on the Korean Peninsula but around the world through the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics, making a promise for the future. For the first time in Asia, we have successfully won the bid for the 2024 Winter Youth Olympic. It will indeed become a sports festival of peace. Athletes will go back and forth between the two Koreas in Gangwon Province using the routes on land, in the sky, and on sea. And we will be able to show with our travels the new path for exchanges between the two Koreas. Again 2018. Again peace 2024. Gangwon Province has always been the channel for communication between the two Koreas. 6 years ago, the stage of harmony needs to be remembered forever. The peace message goes beyond inspiration here at the PyeongChang Peace Forum. I would like to introduce our moderator. The moderator, as you have seen on the screen, is someone who has gone to Pyongyang in 2018 because we broadcasted live from North Korea. And we also had live broadcasting from Korea to North Korea as well. And the person who conducted the broadcasting in North Korea will moderate this session. It is Mr. Chun In-suk from KBS. Thank you very much. I am Chun In-suk from KBS. The strength of Gangwon Province was emphasized through the video. Indeed, Gangwon Province is at the center of the Korean Peninsula, and it is at the center of world peace. This has been confirmed through the Winter Olympics and other events. I am also from Gangneung, which is a city within this province. Personally, as you have seen in the video, during the 2000 summit between Chairman Kim and President Kim, I had an opportunity to report from North Korea, and I also had an opportunity to broadcast live for 4 hours during the Korean Thanksgiving holidays. from North Korea. I thought at that time that all would sail well between the two Koreas. But we went through difficulties, and now we see a thawing of the relations that started 3 years ago here in PyeongChang, followed by the Inter-Korean Summit, and we also have the Ari Sports Cup Festival pursued by Governor Choi Mun-sun and also Mr. Kim Kyung-sung. In 2018, the athletes came down and went up to Pyongyang on land. And in 2018, I participated as a football caster, and I also had the live broadcasting from North Korea. I thought all would go well in 2018, but we also have a difficult patch currently. But the ice between the two Koreas needs to be broken with our efforts. Now is the time to make that effort, because in 2024, youth from around the world will come to Gangwon province, and with their dream of peace, they will break the ice between the two Koreas, and we have talked about this during the last 3 days. Today is the last day of the Peace Forum, and in 2018, we had youth from the two Koreas playing football in cities across the Korean Peninsula, and we are here to talk about how to utilize these experiences for Gangwon 2024. We have two people, Mr. Han Yong-hun and Yang Yong-jin, who are athletes who participated in those games, but they are not here with us. But we also have Mr. Kim Dong-hyun, who had an opportunity to participate as a student reporter during the 2018 football tournament. A round of applause, please. And at that time, because students from the two Koreas played sports together, we had the support of the Sports Council, and we have with us Mr. Lee Won-sung. And we also have someone who visited North Korea with me, and someone who has always been very concerned about the situation between the two Koreas. We have Mr. Kim Jin-ho of Gyeongyang Daily. And this beautiful lady, also from Gangwon province, we have Chief Pharmacist Kim Young-suk, who participated as a medical practitioner during the 2018 games. We also have with us who worked with Gangwon province, and he is from Gyeonggi province, which is a province right next to North Korea, and he is Mr. Lee Won-sung, president of the Gyeonggi Province Sports Council. And next to him, someone who introduced me and someone who doesn't need any introduction, someone who continues to break the ice between the two Koreas. We have Mr. Kim Kyung-sung, Peace Cooperation Officer at Gangwon Province. And we have someone representing the power of Gangwon Province, Governor Choi Mun-sun. Well, Officer Kim Kyung-sung and Governor Choi Mun-sun, after listening to all of the other panelists, we would like to listen to you. I can still remember very clearly going across the 38th parallel on land is very rare for individuals to experience, but Governor Choi Mun-sun and Mr. Kim Kyung-sung made that possible. And they enabled civilians like myself to cross the 38th parallel, to go up to Kaesong, across the Yesong River, and go to Pyongyang to do live broadcasting for the football tournament. That was 3 years ago. And compared to the people like myself who are broadcasters or medical support, I think the athletes themselves were very much inspired by that experience. And so I would like to take this opportunity to meet two athletes from those tournaments via video. Due to COVID-19, they have not been able to join us in person. So let us take a look at the screen for their interviews.
Ari Sports Cup has left a huge milestone in inter-Korean sports exchanges, and the fourth competition was held in Pyongyang, and it was very meaningful in two ways. The first visit to the north on land along the west coast. The first civil exchange after the Panmunjom Declaration. As for the players who participated in the competition in Pyongyang last year, how would they remember this experience? Our team was trailing by 5-0, and when I scored a goal, there were these North Korean spectators who really cheered for us. They did not make distinctions between North Korean and South Korean players, but they cheered for all of us as we were one people. Whether we scored or fell on the ground, they really supported us, and we were touched by that. I remember a North Korean player with the back number 17. What was he like? During the game, I fell on the ground, but he came to me and helped me stand back up. And he was nice to me. I hope to see you again in the professional league when we grow up. I may be better looking than you, but we're both great football players. We are one Korean people. Peaceful civil exchanges between the two Koreas is not the only goal of Ari Sports Club, and there is even a greater goal for Ari Sports Cup competition.
Yes, these scenes are from the 2018 tournament. We played in Pyongyang first, and then 2 months later, we played in Chuncheon. So on the field, these athletes competed fiercely, and we also had fierce competition amongst the broadcasters because myself and Han Jun-hee broadcasted on the Korean side, and there were 4 escorts from North Korea, and they listened to what we were saying. And they continue to surveil us. And if we use words that they do not like, they would send us little notes right away. And so we had quite fierce competition amongst the broadcasters as well. At that time, before broadcasting for football tournaments, we have opening comments on field, and the athletes from Korea were from Jumunjin, and I talked about Jumunjin from Gangwon province, and the North Koreans stopped the filming, and the North Korean said Jumunjin is located in South Gangwon province. And so they did not like the fact that we called our province Gangwon Province instead of South Gangwon Province. And so we said, okay, so we would also talk about Wonsan, and I would say North Gangwon Province, and they stopped us again and said Wonsan is in Gangwon Province, not North Gangwon Province. And so there was quite a bit of fierce competition amongst the broadcasters as well. Everyday life in North Korea was not that comfortable. We were surveilled quite a bit and controlled. And so when they come to South Korea, we wanted to pay them back. But the broadcasters and our escorts, we were not all that close. But 2 months later, when they came to Chuncheon and played football in Chuncheon, although the broadcasters did not have a good relations, we heard that they had great relations with the student reporters. Mr. Kim Dong-yeon, how old were you? I was in high school at that time. So it was probably the first time you met North Koreans. How did it feel? How did it feel to meet North Koreans? At that time, the North Korean athletes came to South Korea, and I joined them on their journey as well. Up until then, when I pictured North Koreans, I imagined the North Koreans that I had seen from textbooks. But when I met the athletes and interviewed them, I felt very close to them. And in that process, I could see that they were teenagers just like myself. And there's a very interesting episode that I could share with you. Mr. Kwon Do-hwan from Jumunjin, who went to Pyongyang, I came to know him, and I met an athlete from North Korea called Lee Il-sung, who was close to that Korean athlete. And so I actually enabled them to talk to each other. And I channeled their messages. And during the award ceremony, we had an opportunity to present chocolate pies from Korea that were quite popular in North Korea. So the North Koreans that you remember, were they scary or were they friendly? Well, at first I was quite nervous. The teachers or the officials that came with them, I told them that I was a student reporter, and they talked about how there's a student reporter school in North Korea, so they said, come and join that school. And they also talked about what the North Korean athletes do in their free time or in their afternoons, so I felt quite close to them. Well, there were wordings that we needed to be very careful of because there were certain words that the North Koreans would like us to use. And the teachers that came with the athletes explained those words very kindly. So you probably met North Korean athletes who were similar in age. Did you feel like you could be friends? Well, at first, we wanted to interview them and we wanted to talk about the game. But at the dinner event, I asked them if they knew Son Heung-min, and they didn't know Son Heung-min. But they knew Tottenham, the team that Son Heung-min plays for, and they knew Barcelona. And so since I'm a soccer fan as well, I was able to talk to them. And we said, if you become a famous player, you can go to Europe and play, and I can become a famous reporter and meet you in Europe. I'm sure that experience that you have had, if it is expanded, it will bring the two Koreas closer together. Let's go to Mr. Lee Kwang-hee.
As for adults, we have certain ideas about North Korea, so we may be familiar with the experience of coming into contact with North Koreans. But what about teenagers? Were you worried? When these young athletes were going to come to South Korea from North Korea, we were thinking how to arrange meetings between the two sides. But then, as was mentioned already, these teenagers were not very afraid or scared, and they were quite excited, and they were able to create and make very interesting moments. So at first we were nervous and worried, but we didn't have to worry about them at all. As you said, I think that these teenagers from the two Koreas, they were similar in their age and they were able to connect with one another quite easily. In 2018, when there was live broadcasting, there was the Kim Il-sung Stadium, which is a very big stadium with 50,000 spectator capacity. But in Chuncheon, we were a little worried because even for professional football games, spectator seats would not be filled. But in Songnas Stadium in Chuncheon, it was filled with spectators and supporters. So I believe this was a good opportunity for students as well. Yes, that's right. We prepared for this for about 20 days, and we received application, and 25,000 people applied to join this game. We didn't have to force them, and there was more than 25,000 people who wanted to come and watch the game. And at that time, there were so many people who wanted to come, and I believe that there was this desire for young people in Korea to have this experience of watching North Korean players play in the games. So I think there was more than 200,000 stories. And at that time, it was not only North Korean athletes, but also I wish that there could be North Korean supporters coming to South Korea, which did not happen. Now, with student reporters, you would come in contact with officials and other people from North Korea. Was there any caution that you had to exercise?
We did have a lot of worries because the terminology between the two Koreas are different, and there are preferred terminologies from North Korea. And the North Korean officials, they were not all that warm to us, but they were quite warm to the students. And so they were very open to being interviewed by student reporters, and they actually promised the student reporters to invite them to Pyongyang.
Now we have 3 years left before the Gangwon 2024 Games, and this is the Youth Olympics where we would have many teenagers coming in. So I believe that Gangwon Province is working really hard to prepare for that. That's correct. As we were able to see at the Ari Sports Cup, when we created an environment for young people, they will grow on their own. So when we provide the right setup, and they will prosper in there. So yes, we have huge hopes for that. Next.
Mr. Kim Jin-ho. So the two Koreas, we need to become one, but that's very difficult. So what can we do? Well, this was not the first time that I went to Pyongyang, and just like you, I had about 10 opportunities to visit North Korea in the early 2000s. The Pyongyang that I experienced then and the Pyongyang that I experienced in 2018 was quite interesting. How was it different? Excuse me. As you have mentioned, I have visited North Korea several times, but it was all using airplanes. It was the first time we traveled on land, and so traveling on land itself was quite moving. There is less than 200 kilometers of highway going up to Pyongyang. And the highway in South Korea do have curves towards the left and right, but there are no curves going up and down. But for the highway in North Korea, it was straight, but it went up and down. So when it went up very high, it would go through tunnels, but it continued to go up and down. But because it went up and down, I had different views of the mountains and fields surrounding the highways. So it was quite beautiful to look at. So the highway, it was not properly paved, and the tunnels were completely dark. Yes, they used a different material to pave the highway. The construction was done well. but it was quite old, and so it did have some nicks, but it did not hinder travel. So, Mr. Kim, you went to Pyongyang several times, and in 2018, because of the Ari Sports Cup, it was a very special visit because we traveled with the students. Yes, that's very true. I could not fall asleep the night before. I remember that this was the first time that I went to Pyongyang in 14 years, so I was quite excited. And I was also nervous about the situation in Pyongyang. We had our student reporter speak before me. Because this was a student event, I was just a supporter. I was not the main part of this event. The students, they had fun, they laughed, and they played together, and they competed on the field. And I saw that we had much to learn from them. Well, personally, what I would have liked to see is that we wanted to see the students coming closer because through sports, but there was a lot of control. And so I thought, can we actually come closer together? In 3 years, when we have Gangwon 2024, and when we have youth from around the world, including North Korea, come to the games, how can we have less control and facilitate mingling? Well, we have different systems in the two Koreas. And we have different priorities in terms of values. During the June 15th summit, we had an important agreement in 2000. And one of the most important agreements was to recognize each other's systems and regimes. And that was the basis for exchanges. And I agree with that principle. Of course, it may look a bit strange from our values, but we need to understand where they're coming from in order to have exchanges. Let's say we're going to Pyongyang, and if we continue to say we are right, then we can't have exchanges. For Gangwon 2024, we will have athletes coming from North Korea, and we will also be going to Wolma area in North Korea. And so we need to do as the Romans do when we are in Rome. So that's what we need to keep in mind when we are in North Korea. So if it's just a one-off event, it would not make us familiar with the situation. But if it goes on 2 times, 3 times, and 10 times, then we will become much more familiar to each other. So we need to recognize the practices of North Korea. And we also need to help them understand our practices when they are in Korea. So, Mr. Kim, for the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics and the Ari Sports Cup and the upcoming Gangwon 2024, these events, do you believe that these events can contribute to solving inter-Korean issues? Well, they will not become the solutions to these issues, but in the end, it's an opportunity for people to meet each other. For the students, as soon as they meet each other, they can become friends right away. It may take some time for adults, but as you have also experienced, if you stay in Pyongyang for a week or so, for the first 2 days you feel quite awkward, but at the end you feel quite comfortable. And so when we continue to meet and share each other's minds, then we can facilitate understanding amongst each other. And I think experiences like this can build up to make approaching military and political issues much easier. I'm sure that Mr. Kim Kyung-sung and Governor Choi Mun-soon's efforts are ever so meaningful. Well, I know that you have other things that you have prepared, but we need to go on due to time constraint.
Kim Young-suk, it was your first visit to Pyongyang. Yes, it was my first time. How was it? I had a lot of expectations. I was excited and I was nervous at the same time. And after I came back from Pyongyang, I realized that this particular visit is quite different from other regular overseas visits, especially because I was accompanying students. And there may be some situations that we did not expect. So I was quite nervous, and there was a doctor, a medical doctor, together with myself, and we had a lot of experiences there. Was there any athlete or participant who was very sick? Not really. But what I remembered the most was that we did not have enough information. So when it comes to preparing for the medical kits, we have 150 people going there, and we would multiply that by 10 days, and we would prepare the medical supplies. But at the same time, the students had their own medical drugs and so on. But after a couple of days, we ran out of medicines. The reason for that was that on the very first day, the weather was really hot. So on our way to Pyongyang, we were quite exhausted. And when you are traveling overseas, you may experience some stomach ache or other symptoms because you're stressed and you're tired. And then there was different food and different temperature and so on. So some people got sick, and they would consume all the medicines that they prepared themselves. And after about 5 days, we ran out of medicines that we packed up before we left. And so we had to gather and collect all the medical supplies that were available, and we had to use them in addition to what we prepared. As we were going to Pyongyang on land, we would have to cross the 38th parallel, and on the northern part near the Kaesong Industrial Complex, there will be the entrance checkpoint, and all of us would had to have our laptops and devices checked by the security guards, and it took quite a long time for that. And how about the medical equipment and supplies? As for medicines and pharmaceutical items, when you go overseas for volunteer, there is very strict control over the kinds of medical supplies that you would bring with you when you enter other countries. If it were just regular medicines for 10 days, then it would be okay. But every country would be quite strict in examining any medical supplies coming into their country. And for this 2018 experience, we had some stomach flu patients, so that is why we ran out of medicines. Near the Taedonggang River, I remember it was very humid over there. Yes, I believe so. It was very humid. And at the same time, many young participants were stressed, and they experienced headaches because they were nervous. And also for myself, I had to be careful about water and so on. And even 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, I would receive calls for medicine because there are these young athletes who had to play games the next day. So I was quite concerned. But fortunately, there was no serious situation. And as soon as we crossed the border back to the south, I was relaxed, and I just had to rest because I was so tired. There were some foods that were supplied to us that were quite different from the kinds of foods that ordinary North Korean people would eat. But still, nevertheless, what did you think about the nutritional aspects of meals that they would consume in North Korea? When I just took a look, especially for the kinds of foods provided to students, I wasn't able to make a comparison directly, but as for the North Korean athletes, they were tanned and they looked very healthy. So I would say that their nutritional situations were similar to the situations for South. We would have this biased image of North Koreans who would be very thin and under nutrition. Well, that was the kind of imagination that I had myself. But when I went there and saw these North Korean students who were soccer players, they were quite healthy and they looked well trained and well nourished. So, of course, they may not represent the entire youth population in North Korea because these students would play sports and they were properly nourished. So, I think that their conditions were similar to South Korean players. If there was another chance in the future, would you go to Pyongyang once again? Yes. Personally, I would love to, but there are many other people who I would like to have. I would like to have other people go and experience that just like I did myself. And I hope that there will be opportunities for other medical doctors and pharmacists. And in the future, if it's possible, I would like to travel to North Korea. And in 3 years, in 2024, you may go to Galma and Wonsan. I am a native Gangwon person. So yes, if opportunities are given, I would love to do that.
So our interest is in the Gangwon 2024 Olympics, which is to be held in 3 years. And we hope to see youth from around the world competing in Gangwon 2024. We have with us Mr. Lee Won-sung, President of the Gyeonggi-do Sports Council. So in 3 years, we will be holding the Youth Winter Olympics titled Gangwon 2024. Are you upset that it is named Gangwon? Well, thank you very much for preparing this PyeongChang Peace Forum. And when the panelists participated in North Korea, they have had great experiences which they shared with us. Governor Choi Mun-soon is very interested in sports, and he is very interested in inter-Korean relations. And Mr. Kim Young-sung, Peace Cooperation Officer at Gangwon Province, is also a very well-known figure for inter-Korean relations. For example, participating in football-related events between the two Koreas. And his work is on the civilian exchanges between the two Koreas. And so in Gangwon Province and in Gyeonggi Province, we work together. And both our provinces are bordered with North Korea. And when there is the Gangwon Province Citizen Sports event, I hope that if it works out, we could invite civilians from the northern side of Gangwon Province to participate in the sports event. And that is the same for Gyeonggi Province as well. So we are neighbored by North Korea, and so I hope that we will have opportunities to invite North Korean athletes to our province because we are very close to North Korea, and we hope to play the role of bridging the two Koreas as well. So we are preparing for Gangwon 2024, and I hope that exchanges between the two Koreas will be facilitated in this process. And I hope that the youth of the two Koreas will visit both Gangwon and Gyeonggi Province, and we hope to look forward to an opportunity to open more exchanges. So Gyeonggi Province will continue to actively support Gangwon 2024. So in detail, are there channels that have been open for cooperation? Well, Gyeonggi Province has the largest population in Korea. We have 13.7 million people in Gyeonggi Province. And so the athletes from Gyeonggi Province, they have training camps in Gangwon Province very often. And so when we have Gangwon 2024, we will have many citizens of Gyeonggi Province traveling to Gangwon, and we also have 4 million people who participate in sports events regularly, and so they will visit Gangwon Province during Gangwon 2024, and they will become supporters of different teams. And I hope that we can utilize this energy to contribute to a successful hosting. We look forward to the support of Gyeonggi Province. Maybe we can have a big round of applause for the support of Gyeonggi Province. Thank you. Let us now go to Mr. Kim Kyung-sang.
여쭤보겠습니다. 사실은 뭐 잘 아시는 대로
As we all know,
경제 협력을 위해서 몸바치신 분이고요.
Mr. Kim Kyung-sung has been dedicated to promoting exchanges between the two Koreas, and we all know that sports is going to be a very important tool in doing so. And RA Sports Cup has been initiated by Mr. Kim and his team, and he's not only representing the inter-Korean sports exchanges, but he's the Peace Cooperation Officer of Gangwon Province, and he's now very busy playing all these roles. So what is your plan going forward? In 2018, we had the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games. It brought peace on the Korean peninsula, and it contributed to peace around the world. And this is the legacy of peace from 2018 PyeongChang. It has made huge contribution. In addition, this legacy of peace from 2018 PyeongChang will be expanded, and as we are holding the Gangwon 2024. First of all, this Youth Winter Olympic Games in 2024, we want to make this an event where the largest number of youth athletes from all over the world will participate. And we also hope that this will be co-hosted with North Korea. So this is the goals that Gangwon Province is pursuing right now. So I would say that the most important for Gangwon 2024 is the support programs. And depending on how successful we are in carrying out the support programs, we can have a successful event in 2024. Therefore, the support committee is crucial. The Gangwon 2024 is a sporting event for the youth. So far, we have had 24 rounds of football competitions between the two Koreas. In Pyongyang, there was the first ever sports exchange memorandum of understanding between the two Koreas in 2006. And since then, there have been 22 occasions where athletes from the two Koreas met. And in October 2018, there were games for 10 days in Chuncheon. The female athletes from North Korea sang a song at the closing ceremony, and the title of the song is See You Again. And at that time, many young athletes from the two Koreas would cry and shed tears. And at the end of the song, they shouted, "Let's meet again in Wonsan." It really shows that the civil sports exchanges and the RA Sports Cup had an agreement that the next competition would be held in Wonsan, but due to the COVID-19 situation, it's been delayed. And there was a message coming from North Korea, and they said that they're preparing for the Wonsan competition. So very soon, we're going to have working level discussions. So during the RA Sports Cup competition in Wonsan, we're going to discuss support programs for Gangwon 2024. And then Masikryong in North Gangwon and PyeongChang in South Gangwon will be the locations for training. So that is the kind of program that we want to carry out. There are countries that do not have well-developed winter sports games, especially those who have warm winters. We would like to invite young athletes from these countries and have them trained in PyeongChang and also in Masikryong, Wonsan. This will be an opportunity for young athletes to transport and go from Pyeongchang to Masikryong in Wonsan. And there will be support from the northern side in terms of room and board and meal and so on. So this is going to be welcomed, I believe, by North Korea. Then Pyeongchang and Masikryong will be the two places where the student athletes would be trained. And in this process, diplomacy of Gangwon province will be enhanced because it provides support for athletes from 50 countries. In addition, Gangwon 2024 can be co-hosted with North Korea. And co-hosting is going to allow the two Koreas to engage in very close exchanges and cooperation. So I would say that Gangwon 2024 is an opportunity to further strengthen the legacy of PyeongChang 2018. We should not miss this opportunity. It is a very valuable opportunity. So Gangwon province will continue to work hard for the support programs, but it's not just the Gangwon province, but the central government support is needed, and that's what we're working on. Mr. Kim Kyung-sung, as we live in South Korea, when we meet him, you may think that he's just an ordinary business person. But when I went to North Korea with him, I realized that all these high-ranking North Korean officials were treated Kim Kyung-sung really nicely, and I was able to see how influential he is in North Korea. Just like we had Pyeongchang in 2018, the Gangwon 2024 will be an event where many personnel from North Korea would come down to South Korea. And in order to make that happen, your role will be crucial. So what is your plan? What is your secret? Here with us, we have Governor Choi Moon-soon. And together with Governor Choi, we've been working really wonderfully as a team. In July 2018, Governor Choi Moon-soon, at that time, he was a member of the National Assembly, and I drove the car myself, and Choi Moon-soon was sitting next to me. And in Kumgang Mountain, there was an arrangement with reporters from the two Koreas. So the reporters from the conservative journals, so Joseonilbo and Rodong newspaper. So that was several years ago, and then he became governor of Gangwon province, and he was successful in his bid for the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympic Games, and then he also once again successfully bidded for Gangwon 2024. So given his track record and his dedication, we have huge expectations. And he's also quite lucky in terms of dealing with North Korea. And I've been very privileged to serve as his aide. And we have a lot of hopes and expectations for Gangwon 2024. And the prospect for joint hosting is very high. Yes, as you said, we're all paying keen attention to what Governor Choi is going to do.
I think amongst all politicians in Korea, amongst all governors and mayors in Korea, this is the man who had the highest contribution to peace between the two Koreas. Let's listen to Governor Choi. I'm sure that you have many mixed feelings. Yes, the people of Gangwon province, ever since the Korean War, we have suffered quite a bit. And it seems that just now we are coming out of that suffering. The title for this talk concert is The Way to Utilize Gangwon 2024 for Peace. Please focus on the name Gangwon. Well, all of you here have traveled to Pyongyang together. Usually, you're not allowed to go outside the hotel in Pyongyang. Maybe Ms. Kim Young-suk and Mr. Chun In-sung, you look like you are from South Korea. You definitely look like you are from South Korea. So you can't go outside of the hotel. But for me, I think when I try to go outside and I just try to pretend that I'm from Gangwon and they think I'm from North Korea, they think I'm from the northern part of Gangwon. And you probably saw Mr. Hwang Geum-seok on the video, and he is actually darker than myself, and he can walk around and roam around Pyongyang as much as he wants. So when we say we are from Gangwon, because they have their own Gangwon province, they think we are from the northern part of Gangwon province. So I think Gangwon province has a premium in North Korea, definitely. So we have the mayor of Pyeongchang here with us. We wanted to at first name this PyeongChang 2024, but the mayor actually made a concession. And there are no Olympics that are named after a state rather than a city. So all Olympics are named after cities. So we have had Seoul, Tokyo, LA Olympics. It's all city names. But this is the first time we have a name that is not a city. But the relations between DPRK and the US is quite tense, and COVID-19 is a pandemic around the world. So how are you preparing for Gangwon 2024? So we have two roadblocks, the US DPRK relations and COVID-19. Well, we have the new Biden administration, so we will work with the Biden administration, and we look forward to coordinating with the Biden administration. Their North Korean policies will probably be aligned with the traditional US policies. For example, whether it be Vietnam or China, other communist countries, what they have done in the US is to always hope for market economies to take root first and do democratization after. And so I think for North Korea, we always say that we should not try to do denuclearizing all at once, but we need to follow the traditional US approach. And so we are continuing to consult with the Biden administration through public diplomacy. We look forward to closer exchanges. Concerning COVID-19, we are preparing for joint disease control because we also have games to be held in Wonsan in North Korea. If that happens, then we hope to have disease control together in Wonsan. So we hope to utilize our system in Wonsan as well. So we are almost at the end of the talk concert. And Governor Che, as many people are joining us on the YouTube platform and many people will continue to watch the YouTube channel, can you leave with us some last remarks concerning the meaning of Gangwon 2024 for the Korean people? Yes, Gangwon 2024 will open PyeongChang Season 2. That is the proposal that I would like to make. In PyeongChang, we had the participation of North Korea, and we had the amazing goal of having a unified team, but now it's a co-hosting. And I believe that that is going a step further in terms of having this joint organizing committee, deciding the venues together, as well as discussing and making decisions on logistics and communications. And so we look forward to an in-depth cooperation with North Korea. And I feel like I am being shortchanged because we have another governor in North Korea for Gangwon province. We have Governor Park Jong-nam in North Korea. And I propose that he and I host Gangwon 2024 together. This is my official proposal. So let us go to the IOC together and sign our agreement together. A big round of applause for this proposal, please. Well, an old Korean saying says that even the smallest stream of water can steadily drill a hole into a large rock. And so I hope that our efforts will continue to bear fruit. And for those of you here today who have directly experienced exchanges with North Korea. I hope that you will share your experiences, and I hope that more people will have experience like yourselves so that the two Koreas can come closer together and open a way for reunification. Let us overcome COVID-19 together and prepare for a successful hosting of Gangwon 2024. And just like Governor Che mentioned, I hope that the heads of the Gangwon province from the south and the north will come together for a successful co-hosting. Thank you very much.